Today I turned this pile of random garbage into this thing that transforms your regular guitar from this into this. Here's how I built it.
First step in this build was to measure the width of a guitar neck at the 16th fret, and then I marked that on a scrap piece of cherry that would become the work piece and cut it at a bandsaw. Then I cut the width of the piece a little narrower, used the two halves to make a nice symmetrical pattern. Then I used that piece of cherry to mark a piece of metal, and I used a cheap hacksaw to cut that to the right size. And you can see it's perfectly square-ish. And then I used an angle grinder with beautiful sparks to get a nice radius on the top of that piece of metal. Came out pretty well. Then I put a piece of scrap in a vise. Used a couple of different width saws to figure out what kerf cut size I needed to slip in the piece of metal. I didn't want a triangle point piece of cherry, so I used a piece of metal to mark that and the belt sander to get that nice and smooth. The metal's going to go inside of the wood. I used a pen to mark that line and used the saw to make the kerf. And she fits in pretty snug. I still had some burrs on there, so I used the file, a couple different angles and techniques to get that smoothed out. And here we go. It fits pretty well. Gonna cram it in there with a hammer. Next I marked a line and used the belt sander so I could match the radius of a fretboard. Next I used an old bridge to get the string spacing good on that piece of metal. I used the file again and some clamps to hold it in place and got those notches for the strings. Here it is. Worked out pretty nice and smooth on the top. However, there's still one problem we're going to see here in a second. I'm detuning the guitar and oh no, wouldn't fit. I used a bandsaw and some clamps to keep my fingers out of the way and got that piece of wood down a little narrower. Now here we are back at the guitar, and
If you want to watch me take a 2x4 and an angle iron and some random guitar parts and turn it into a lap steel, check out my next video. Thanks for watching.